The importance of a website for B2B service providers, consultants, agency owners, and the like is completely overrated. I really believe that you don't need one until you hit, let's say, 500,000 in revenue. And that applies to, I would say, 90% of B2B service providers. I know that there are some where a good and significant amount of their target audience would judge them so badly for not having a website that actually not having a website is negative. Okay, I could, for example, imagine there's one of my clients who runs a boutique consultancy and he's selling services to private equity companies. And in that case, I agree, maybe it is important that you have a good looking website because people might judge you on this. These are generally, let's say, a bit old school people who are not super present on social media. So they might judge you if you don't have a website. However, the vast majority of B2B service providers, especially if you are serving small businesses, not big ones, but small ones, you really do not need a website. Or at most, all that you need is a website with a little bit of text, maybe a video where you introduce yourself, and then a calendar link, and then customer testimonials if you have them. But it really is not necessary to even have that when you're starting out. Or you have customer testimonials. A LinkedIn profile is really all that you need. And this whole topic arose for me from a post that I made on LinkedIn where I was arguing that when you have a lot of things on your plate, when you just don't know where to jump next, when it comes to sales and marketing, the heuristic to apply is that you go on the funnel bottom up first. So you start at the bottom and you work your way upwards. That means specifically, if you have a couple of prospects who almost closed but then didn't, try to follow up on those and try to get them over the line in some way, shape or form that you can. Then after you've done that, then fix your sales process. Like, how do you run a sales call? What kind of script do you use? What are your systems to nurture people between calls if you have to do multi-call closes and so on? That is the next step to fix, because you are working at a level where you have people who have the highest probability of closing. When you get a sales call, you have somebody who maybe has a 10 to 20% chance of closing. So those people need to be nurtured first, and then you move upwards. Because if you were to start fixing your funnel at the very top, you are working with people who have, let's say, a 0.5% probability of closing. So I would not invest a huge amount of effort into them before you fix the very bottom, because especially when you're in a place of where you, let's say, you need revenue pretty quickly, right? You do not want to wait too long. Then fixing the bottom of the funnel is more important than fixing the top. And one of the people who commented on my post was somebody who said, well, what about the website? If you have a leaky funnel at the top, fewer people will arrive at the bottom for you to fix. I say, yes, by all means, we should not neglect the top of the funnel. And by the way, putting a lot of people at the top of the funnel is usually the cure for most funnel problems, right? If you just put in a lot of people at the top, yes, you can then gradually fix your funnel along the way, but volume is the cure to many, many problems. But that commenter raised the question of how important is even a website for B2B service providers. And that I have a pretty strong opinion on, and I would like to share it here and try to spare you and keep you from investing huge amounts of time into something that might have a really low ROI. So when I was starting out in 2016, I focused probably, I would say 200-300 hours on my website. I was thinking about the logo. I was selecting fonts for the logo for a very long time. I was even drawing. I had like cartoons on my website. I'm not a good artist, but I was drawing cartoon figures for my website. I was drawing a forest in the background where all those cartoon figures are gathering for a bonfire. So it was extremely elaborate. I once spent a whole afternoon designing the background of my website drawing, right? It was terrible. I just spent so much time on this. And I really want you to save yourself from that. It was absolutely unnecessary for my own client acquisition efforts. I did not have an offer. I did not know who I would be providing services for. I did not know who exactly my niche was and what the outcome would be that I would be delivering to them. I had nothing of the sort. And yet I was fiddling around with the graphics on my website. Really bad choice of priorities. And so it is my very strong opinion, and I would challenge you to provide me a counterexample where you know for a fact that potential clients of a B2B service provider told them, no, we're not going to work with you because you don't have a website. Or that you know for a fact from a very reliable source that the reason why you were not chosen or why this person was not chosen was because they did not have a website or because they had a poor website. It simply does not happen. You sell people, you convince people on the strength of your offer, on maybe the strengths of recommendations that you bring, but if you don't have those, is how well you come across on a sales call and what kind of guarantees you offer if it does not work out. If you have, for example, some kind of money back guarantee, if you say that, hey, I'm going to be working for you for free, and this will, let's say you give me a tiny retainer just to show that you have some commitment, and then you pay me on result, that will make so much more of an impact when it comes to securing a client than any possible magic that you could do with your website. Because the fact is, when you're starting out, you simply do not know enough about your clients and what they care about. Even if you have worked in this space, I constantly meet people who have been employed and then they start out on their own and they spend a huge amount of time fiddling around with their website. And in reality, they do not know what sales arguments really will convince their clients. Recently, we had somebody signed up who has been for almost a full year sort of putting in the foundations in place for his business, right? He had creating a website, he was building alliances, building partnerships, networking, and so on. The result was zero revenue and a lot of time spent and networking done, but effectively there's no money in the bank. It also means that there is no market knowledge gain, that there is no insights gain. This person who now recently joined us in order to fix this problem, he simply did not have enough market knowledge to even know what kind of offer, who is the target audience, what are their specific pain points. Didn't know any of that. So that is why it's such a wrong idea to try to put the foundations in place for too long a time. You know what? Spend 2 weeks on your foundations. You get 2 weeks. I give you that, okay? And then you start reaching out to people, and the goal is to present an offer to 100 people every day within the next month after you start, okay? That's the goal. Those are the systems that are gonna get you clients rather than having a website. But this person who commented on my post, he brought up actually a good point, and he said, look, before somebody chooses to engage with you, the vast majority of the sale is made before even they contact you. They will research you, they will look at your website, and they will just be interested in what you do. And only once they're almost sold on your services, only then they will book a call with you. To which I say, yes, it is true that a lot of the sale is made before the actual call, especially in an inbound scenario. Of course, that's what it mostly happens. However, it is not the website that counts as much. It is much more the content that you're putting out. Like if you have, let's say, 1 or 2 content pieces per week across all platforms, even if it's just a little bit of LinkedIn and maybe the occasional YouTube video, that is going to be by far the more important thing than your website. Your website, even if it only contains just a little bit of text, maybe a welcome video and a Calendly link, is mainly there to serve as a sanity check. Something where somebody can go to reassure themselves, okay, this is a credible person, they have a website, and the website looks somewhat well put together. All I need is to see that this person knows what they're talking about and that indeed their offering on LinkedIn matches what is on the website. And I know of marketing agencies, for example, only yesterday I was looking at one. It's a marketing agency with clients. They seem to be successful at what they're doing. They have, I believe, like 7 employees on LinkedIn. They do not have a website. How do they do this? Well, because they simply do not need to have a website. You do not need a website in order to get your first couple of clients. And even if you are a B2B management consultant and you believe that you need a website, I would challenge you to actually speak to some people in your target market and tell them, listen, I would want to be offering a couple of services here. What do you think? And please tell me genuinely, when you are thinking of hiring somebody for this or that kind of job, what would you think if they have a really good LinkedIn profile? They post content on a regular basis, they're well connected, and when you talk to them over DMs, they come across as, pretty solid, but they don't have a website. Would that be an impediment for you working with that person? And really ask that question and try to present it in a non-loaded way that kind of suggests that you have an agenda here, and see what they'll tell you. It's not a perfect data point because some people might kind of feel, oh, where does he want this to go? But very often when you say, please try to get as much of an unbiased take. Do you remember ever hiring somebody for some kind of B2B service work and this person did not have a website, or you don't even know if they have a website? And only if they tell you, only if you get a lot of signals that say, no, a website is necessary. It's super important. I need to know that they're out there. And then you say, okay, what if they had a really good LinkedIn profile, but no website? Would that be sufficient? And then see what they say. I believe, to round this off, and I challenge you to find me a good counter argument against that, before you are at 30,000 monthly revenue, approach people with a good offer, tell them what you can do, what kind of outcome can you drive for them in the next 6 months. Show that you have some skin in the game. Maybe it's some kind of pay on performance model. Maybe it's some kind of money back guarantee model. Just show that you are invested in their success and approach 20, 30, 50, up to 100 people people every day. You can do this via cold email, via LinkedIn DMs, LinkedIn InMail. There's a lot of possibilities. You can approach your right decision maker, try to book sales calls, make sure that you record those sales calls and see how you come across at them, and work on that and try to do it without having a website. Because I see the big risk of focusing on the website is that you lose a huge amount of time and market validation opportunities that you would have gotten otherwise if you simply had a good LinkedIn profile, no website, but you focused on driving the inputs that make the difference, which is approaching people, putting out content so that people see that you are a credible player, and having good sales calls. That's all you need. So I challenge you, and I really try to consider this. Do not fiddle around with your website. If you have one, just leave it as it is. Only make sure that the website matches your LinkedIn profile. That would be bad. If you have a website that is not congruent with what you're currently selling on LinkedIn, that creates kind of confusion and like, what is this guy actually doing? What is this lady doing? I don't really know. Make sure that these two are congruent. But other than that, just let it be and focus on your outbound. If you are at below $30,000 a month, outbound will be the cure to all of your client acquisition woes. Approach enough people, book sales calls, and try to sell to them. You'll see that for all of this, you can succeed without ever having to fiddle around, mess around with a website.